Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sunday Brunch. I am your host, RM, and of course, we have with us today Russ Whitfield. Russ, how are you?
Yeah, I'm okay, thanks, RM. How are you?
I'm doing well. Feeling pretty good. So glad to be here with you and everybody in the chat for Sunday Brunch. Welcome, guys, to Sunday Brunch. And of course, we have Tom Jr. Jackson, our moderator, collaborator, and good friend who is here, who says, please click the like and subscribe buttons and enjoy the show. We are all good people, Tom Jr. Jackson. Uh, Gosh, what a day today, Russ.
Yeah,
Mario Lopez.
sorry, RM. Before you even do that, hey, Mario. Mario says, "Hi, everyone. I'm ready for our Sunday show. That's great, but I wanted to call something out here that I just noticed, and I feel that it needs bearing out because it's been said in public. So therefore, I feel that I can actually shine a light on this."
Okay.
Irene Jobson says, "Good morning, everyone. Chat room, Tom Junior Jackson, the beautiful and gorgeous RM, that'll be you, and that guy Russ." And then she says that she is 7 days sober today,
Yes.
which is fucking massive. And I'm sorry if that got you demonetized. I apologize, but this is like the best news. That is such an uphill battle, one that I am intimately familiar with myself. And for Irene to have done that 7 days, that is absolutely, you're over the biggest hump now, Irene. I think is the thing, because you start waking up and you realize, shit, I don't feel like I want to cut my own throat, and I'm not feeling like I'm just can't wait till 5 o'clock until I can have another drink and what have you. So this is amazing. Many, many congratulations to you, my darling. Keep on it. You can do it. You've done it. You've proven to yourself now that it can be done. And there are peaks and troughs and ups and downs and falling off wagons and all of that kind of thing. But here it is. You did it. 7 days. You can do 7 days. You can do 8. You can do 9. You can do 10. And if you fall off, then you start again. It's like running. You fall out of running and you go on the treadmill and you can't breathe. And you're thinking, but you know that if you keep at it, you'll get back to where you were. It's exactly the same thing. And I couldn't be prouder of you. Really, really well done. I am so happy for you. Keep it up. Great work. Well, really well done. Brilliant. You're an angel. You deserve all the success.
Absolutely, Russ. Irene, we are rooting for you and we do support you. And we also understand. And thank you for sharing that with us. Well done. And certainly keep us informed about how things are going. We are here every Sunday. So please do check back in with us and let us know how your journey is going, Irene. That's so important for us to keep in contact with one another and relate that information. So kudos to you, Irene. Well done on 7 days. And Russ, Mario Lopez has been incredibly generous this morning. Um,
Okay.
Starting off with a 5.99 euro super chat.
Mhm.
Wow, Mario, this is incredibly generous. Thank you for that. Says one of two. If HBO made a new version of the last season of Game of Thrones, where at least it wasn't Daenerys but Cersei that caused the destruction of King's Landing, that's part one, and then another 5.99
Wow.
euro super chat. Wow, Mario, that is so generous. Part two of two. By spreading the explosives throughout the city, perhaps they could win more viewers for the new series that are in production. This is interesting, Mario. And as somebody who's watched the Game of Thrones, and I didn't mind that. Unfortunately, Daenerys went loco, like she went nuts and destroyed everything. I didn't mind. What I thought was weird was that they didn't stop her a little bit sooner. She could have lost her mind, that's fine, but I think that they would have stopped her a lot sooner before she would have done so much destruction. And I wanted Cersei to live with her brother. If that's what they want to do with their life, that's what they do. But I don't like that they were kind of buried under that archetype of the castle, which stands for so much power, buried by it. And I didn't like that they went out like that. I would have rather they died stopping Daenerys or something like that, just stopping her from destroying everything that they cherish so much. So they could have gone a little different with that. They wanted to get rid of Cersei and her brother. that's fine, but you didn't have to kill them that way. That was not a way I thought they would have gone out. They would have gone out on the sunset, even if they had to, they would have gone out fighting, not crumbled under the rubble. What do you think, Russ? Do you think what Mario's saying is a good point? If they could change the perception of Daenerys losing her mind and destroying everything and changing it, would it cause more people to um come back to the show? They had the highest, they were the highest rating show pretty much anywhere. What do you think, Russ?
I think in that specific example that Mario brings up, you couldn't, because she'd already done that with the High Sparrow. She'd already used the chemicals under the city and blew up everything. You know, she blew up the church, and she blew up um, oh Natalie Dormer's character, whose name escapes me at the moment. Not
Right, right.
Was it Marjorie?
I'm not sure. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
because you know she was using her frankly, if it's Natalie Dormer, irresistible feminine wiles. I'm not going to lie. I mean, if you're a straight guy and you don't have the hots for Natalie Dormer, then you don't have a pulse. It's that simple. And she was using all that on Joffrey, and you know, basically accumulating power for her house, which is a big no-no for the Lannisters. So no, I don't think that they could have done that, and I don't think they really could have done anything other than what they had been doing. Now, if they'd have done what they had been doing and taken their time and, you know, given us 10, or it would have been 10 or 20, I think 2 seasons. It needed 2 more seasons, didn't it, really, that show, to resolve everything. But I think they were in such a rush to get off it. To go, you know, it's a famous story, isn't it? They just wanted to get it done and get onto Star Wars, which didn't work out too well for them. So I think the only saving of Game of Thrones, Mario, would be really to just do it properly, and they certainly could have done, but they just were not interested. And if they were not interested, then any writer in Hollywood would have been pretty happy to have got a call from Weiss and Benioff going, "Look, man, we can't be fucked. We want to do Star Wars. Do you fancy coming in and helping us out with the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones?" And who's going to say no? Like, not literally, no one is going to say no. And it is such a shame that's the way it went. However, it has ultimately, the Game of Thrones universe has ultimately redeemed itself, perhaps in a way that Star Wars has sort of driven itself down a dead end, you know, and cannot redeem itself, whereas Game of Thrones can. Now we have, I believe, obviously we've got House of Dragon, which is a return to form. Let's just put it that way. People were reticent at the beginning and like, well, you know, one good episode doesn't make a comeback. Two good episodes doesn't make a comeback. Three good episodes doesn't make a comeback. Four, five, and now we're starting to look like they've learned their lesson, and they're doing their absolute utmost. I think there's also a sequel um, series coming out, isn't there, with Jon Snow in the north, and so on and so on. And given the reception of House of Dragon, Mario, given, although really hideously done, okay, so my biggest beef with that whole thing was that if that was the road you were going to go down with Daenerys, then you needed to seed that all the way through. And people have argued that they have, like when she set fire to the slavers, and she's done this and she's done that, but you needed to more seed and make obvious the roots of her insanity. It's no good telling. It's no good saying all the Targaryens went nuts when there was no indication that this girl was going to go nuts, because she basically, you know, she was the breaker of change. She was the, you know, almost to those people. Oh, the Unsullied. She was almost a messianic figure, like and she was certainly like that to the oh, what were Jason Momoa's guys called? The horse guys.
I
Um,
can't. I'm so sorry, Russ. I
the
wasn't prepared for this.
Drakari or something like, no,
Mhm.
Dracaris is, that's what they say to burn someone. I can't remember what they were called, but anyway, those guys, horse guys. She was certainly a messianic figure to them because of her survival and bringing forth the dragons and all that, and they worshipped her as their Kailisi, their high queen, all of that stuff. Great. there's no indication that she was nuts. And that no, Mario says Cal Drogo. Yeah, but what were his people called? The horse people. I just cannot remember what they were called. Anyway, what's my point? My point is, there was no seeding of that throughout the series. It was just, oh fuck, she's nuts now, and that it was a bit poor. But as I said, it was, you know, and every writer does this. When you start getting towards the end of the story, you start to pick up, you start to pick up pace like you're riding a horse, and you start to gallop, because you can see you've got, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 pages to go, whatever it happens to be. Um, and you want to get to the end of it. But Game of Thrones, especially the last season, with the 2 hour, movie episodes and all that, it just sounded like they just couldn't be bothered, and that was the end of it. However, regardless of all of that plot stuff, regardless of all of that structure stuff, and you can argue it one way or the other. I see Irene says that she saw the gradual derailing. I certainly didn't. But then again, I wasn't avid Irene. I was more, what turned me off actually about Game of Thrones, I'm not going to lie, is, you'd watch the season, it would be awesome, and then the whole year would go by, and then you'd be like, hold on, I thought she was shagging, wasn't she shagging that other isn't he dead? Who's what? And I'd forget what the hell was going on. Dothraki says, Mario, yes, the Dothraki, thank you so much. However, where I'm getting to with all of that, even though it was shittily handled, it hasn't irreparably broken the story and or the lore of that show. Right? She's gone nuts. She burned the city down. Jobs are good, and people can move on and kind of forget how poorly it was handled, because the mythos and all of that, people didn't come away from that show complaining about what they did so much to Khaleesi, and what they did to Jon Snow, and what they did to this character, and what they did to that. People were really attacking the show, the behind the scenes people, like, how could you do this? This is nonsense. Differently to how they were saying, how could you do this to Luke? How could you turn Han into a deadbeat dad? How could you, not have them all together? There was none of that. The criticism was solely, well, not solely, but mostly directed at the writers. So the law isn't broken. So to answer your question, given the damage repair that House of the Dragon has performed, like on that franchise, on that show, fans and the general public, because the show did really, really well, right?
Yes.
We know that House of the Dragon is really good. Therefore, I'm not going to say the sequel series is going to get a pass, but it's going to at least get eyes on, given we know that Game of Thrones franchise has somewhat been salvaged, or actually completely salvaged by House of the Dragon. So you're not going to go into it thinking, yeah, okay, it's going to be bollocks. No, you're going to think, let's see what you can do. Let's hope this is everything it can be. And if they have the right people behind it, as they do with House of Dragon, then yeah, it could be good. So I'm not necessarily sure that the paradigm that you're presenting here, it was already bringing in more viewers, has already kind of happened with the patch up job that House of the Dragon did. So those people that loved that show, and those people that loved Game of Thrones last uh season aside, will be tuning in. Put it this way, Mario, I'd be surprised if it wasn't a big ratings win for the first 2 or 3 episodes, but the quality has to be there, because it's not going to have the microscope on it at first. But if it starts to go down the toilet after episode 2 or 3, or even after episode 1, then yeah, then the knives are going to be out for, oh, I can't believe you could do House of the Dragon so well, and the online mob will be out for them. So I hope that answered your question, your bloody €12 question there. So thank you very much indeed. Going to go to our coffee fund, I'm sure, and
Absolutely.
hope that answered your question, mate.
Yeah, and I think I definitely agree with what you're saying, Russ. I think um you know the way that the story and the way that everything was structured, it was bound to annoy people. It was not necessarily an enjoyable thing to watch in the show, and I think that that's another element to consider, that, a lot of people didn't enjoy seeing that happen, and if anything, that shows how much people really invested in the show, how much they love it, and how much they didn't want to see that kind of, behavior occur. Um, but at the same time, one other thing that you mentioned about how they were might have been distracted, people are going to question that because they know that they had this other thing lined up in the wings, if you will,
Mm.
for what they were going to continue on with. And I think that it was just such a beautiful show. There's so many things about the show that I really don't see a lot. And in addition to having an incredible number of cast members like this, I can't even think about how many, people were in the show, but they picked like some of the most beautiful people in entertainment to star in this show.
Hmm.
And it was just, every time you saw something, it was amazing. Even people, let's say, who were not that attractive, they were very careful, Russ, in how they selected people to star in the show. They didn't just pick anybody, nothing was an afterthought, everything was meticulous. And I think that level of attention to a show that has so much at stake needed to continue to the very end. And people felt let down by that. And I hear you, Mario, when you're saying that, because this is the number one thing that everybody tells me about the show that they dislike. But I should be very clear that I didn't necessarily care that she did that. As I said, for me, my biggest concern was that I felt she should have been stopped by Cersei. And she should come out and stopped her from doing this. And that could have been a way where Cersei got killed, but also Daenerys at the same time. It could have been
Well,
kind of
oh,
like an accidental killing, purposefully on Cersei, but accidentally killing Cersei. Daenerys accidentally kills Cersei. She didn't mean to do this. And it could have like softened the blow a little bit because it was not what she intended to do, and she really, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And then John would have to come in there and kind of finish her off, I guess. But
well, for me, I was a little bit in love with Lena Headey in that role.
yeah,
Like I, a little bit, I was completely in love with her in that role. And I tell you what, I was Team Cersei all the way, even up till the bitter end, because although although she was like the evil queen, she was sort of motivated by wanting to protect her kids and to hold on to power. To which perhaps one is a nice motivation to have, or but the second one is not, perhaps not great, but understandable. Like the king or the queen in this case doesn't want to lose their crown. And also she believed that the Lannisters were the ones best suited for rule. And I think that's probably borne out given the sort of strife in that kingdom, and in the kingdom of Westeros and so on and so forth. So what I would have loved to have seen, actually, and I think would have been a really ballsy move, was for her to have won. And I
yes,
think that would have been entirely in keeping with the whole, killing off poor old Sean Bean at the beginning, like like he was marked to die, and then you had the red wedding and all that, and then they kind of stopped that because it was becoming it was almost a bit of a trope. And one of the problems that I identified with Game of Thrones was that there was nobody really to sort of root for. You couldn't really invest in people because you didn't know if they were going to die, and that's well and good. And it's well and good to have the audience not fucking, is he going to die? Is she going to? But after a while, you start to not care, because if you're invested in Rob and you're invested in his romance with that girl and all that business, and then boom, Rob's gone, boom, Ned Stark's wife has gone, but everyone's gone. You don't want to latch onto someone because you're thinking, well, and I think that was a little bit of a mistake, which they then went and rectified. So it would have been nice to have, boom, spun it on its head right at the end, and pull the rug out and go, no, well, actually, she had the power, she had the soldiers, she had the money, she had everything, and she won the day. And you could still have, for actually quite sensible political reasons, um, Jon Snow exiled. You could have exiled him and said, "No, man. Look, we had a civil war here. I don't need the North being stirred up. I need someone I can trust in the North. So I'm marrying your sister off to my son or whoever it happens to be." And you end it that way, and he goes off to the North, and you have this stable uh, situation.
Yeah, that's such a good point, Russ, and that is something to think about. And one other thing I wanted to say also, if I didn't say it already, was that when Cersei died, like under this rubble, it almost felt like it was Daenerys who was aiming towards her. So they were sort of like deep in the catacombs or down in the dungeons or wherever they were,
They
even though
were,
there
yeah,
were people there. It felt as if Cersei was aiming it towards, sorry, Daenerys was aiming it directly to Cersei by destroying it, knowing that the castle would come down and crumble down on them. So although you couldn't see, there wasn't like a direct line of sight to it, that's how I interpreted this whole thing. And
mm.
I'm not quite sure why I did that, and I didn't like it. I still don't like. I'm really don't like that. That's how Cersei went out. So, even
No,
though she,
it was crap. It was crap.
okay,
Like
it felt like
she's the main villain.
pointing to her by pulling down the
Yeah,
castle, destroying it, and I don't know whether that was the intention or not, Russ, but it felt like it. It felt like that's what was going on, and I was like, Cersei, you can't beat Cersei. No one can beat Cersei.
yeah. Well, that was entirely my, and I'd convinced myself actually that she was gonna win in the end, especially the way that um Daenerys went nuts. So you could not, she was always the lead, the heroine, the one person you could follow, the one person that you could buy into, and that was the hero. So people say it's Jon Snow, but unfortunately, the direction or Kit Harrington's way, I'm not. I'd certainly follow Jamie into battle, but I don't think I'd follow Jon Snow.
I wouldn't either. He's
Do you know what I mean?
yeah, because he can flip his what he's doing in a moment's notice, but he won't tell you. Like
Mm,
it feels as if he has to make these important decisions, but he's not sort of like, hey, by the way, I have to tell you something.
mm,
There won't be any sort of like meeting with him about what is going to happen next, because he feels a little disconnected. I'm not saying he is, but it feels as if he's a little disconnected
mm,
from everybody else. And perhaps he has no choice to feel that way, because as soon as he has this association with Daenerys, people are very leery of him. So they
mm,
automatically didn't trust him anyway. Now they trust him even less because he's, literally sleeping with this person or in love with this person or whatever you want to call it.
mhm,
Now they really don't like him. So he doesn't have any allies. And because of this, it's hard to get behind someone. I'm not saying he isn't. I'm not saying he isn't a likable character and that I didn't think he was smoking hot. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is it's hard to get behind a character when they're so alone because of a reason like that. At the very least, you would expect that there would be a situation where everybody's finally trusted him now. And I didn't get that sense. I think even to the very end, there was still a lot of distrust around him. And I don't know. It's kind of weird, right, Russ?
well, I think so. I think with that character, you have to think that Kit Harrington, probably part of the RSC, if not certainly, had done theatre work, because that's the almost certainly, I would say. And I don't
Yes.
know much about the man, but that seems to be the trajectory for British actors slash stars. They go down the theatre route. So what's my point? My point is they can all act pretty well, but the writing behind Jon Snow kept him as reserved and kept him as within. He was always within himself, cool, calm, collected, knew what to do, but was never written as an inspiring character. And we had the one scene where he had to lead the people away from the town that was getting attacked by the White Walkers and all that kind of thing. And you kind of want your. I'm actually getting goosebumps thinking. I cannot believe that's legit. Legit goosebumps thinking about this. Right, that speech that Viggo Mortensen gives in the Return of the King. But today is not that day, and my legs and everything is going. I'm just remembering that scene. It's so good. And Mortensen's a brilliant actor, and I'm sure Kit Harington is too, but he never had his Aragorn moment. He
No.
never he never became the king. before
Yeah.
he became the king, right? And
Yeah.
that in that battle, you see this guy, like, everyone's shitting themselves. Their orcs look horrible, you know. Oh my god, there's Sauron. Oh, what are we gonna do? And he inspires his men to go forth and massacre the orcs, right? Or at least to do the delaying action until Sam and Frodo can do their mission. But you know, Jon Snow never got that, so you're always left with the feeling. As I said, I'd be right behind Jamie, or right, you know, next to him, shoulder to shoulder, and I would believe. Um, I don't know. Is it Nikolai? I can't pronounce the actor's surname that played Jamie Lannister, because it Costano. Well, Nikolai Costano, I think it is.
Hmm.
Um, he had that. I'd be there shoulder to shoulder with him. I believed in him. I believed that this guy was a warrior, and I would believe that he would keep me safe, and the decisions that he made tactically would be the right decision. You know, I believed in him. And Jon Snow, I'd just be like, "Ooh, rather you than me, mate."
Yeah, that's a good point, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. I'm glad I'm not the only person who felt kind of that way about him. However, what a great series, and Mario, it's not going anywhere. People will still watch it. There are people who have not watched Game of Thrones. It's a whole generation of people who haven't watched it, and they're gonna watch it, and they keep asking, should I watch it? I tell them, yeah, watch it. I said the ending might be kind of a surprise, but you're gonna enjoy the ride from beginning to end. Honestly, I don't think there are a lot of whole points where I didn't find it enjoyable to watch. Of course, I think the other thing that I was going to say, in addition to having an incredibly huge cast, I don't think we're ever going to see a show like that again, Russ. I think it's very hard to make something like this and to have that many cast members. And they talked about how they had to film. I watched a making of, I think it was on one of those shows, and they talked about how the last season they filmed a lot of it at night. And,
Mm.
so essentially their work hours were midnight to 8 a.m., that kind of a shift. And they showed that, these people who were dedicated to the show. It was made with a lot of love, Russ, a lot
Mm.
of love. These extras who were in the show, who they depended heavily on the rest of the cast as much as the main characters, Russ.
Sorry, Irene's leaving. She says, I need to get my heart monitor taken off and go home. Thanks for the support. Love you all. We love you too, Irene. You're doing a
Bye,
brilliant job.
Irene.
You take care of yourself. Give me a call anytime.
And let us
Love
know
you
how you're
loads.
doing, and come back and let us know, and how you're feeling. Okay, Irene, we are always here. The community is always here for you.
Mm.
But Russ, thank you, Mario, for the generosity this morning. I know Stubble has also been very generous this morning as well. Um, and certainly, guys, check out Russ's Amazon storefront. It's bigger because I have the bigger. I could change the banner brand, because it's sometimes when you change it from one, it changes the size, and
There we go.
I can make it smaller, but maybe I'll do this one now. So guys, definitely check out Russ's Amazon storefront, and check out his Gladiatrix series, which is just incredible, guys. You won't be disappointed. We will be talking about that on Roman Empire Matters. And guys, I am going to upload the rest of my videos. I haven't had a chance to upload everything, including the REM podcast that I'm doing with Julian Mushkin. We're already up to episode 4. I'm going to be sharing that with you guys soon. Hello to a performing
There
artist.
he is. Hello, mate. I hope you're. Do let us know how your plans are going to do more performing and acting, and so on and so forth this year. I know it's early in the year, a little bit into February now, but yeah, let us know, man.
And also let us know, are you in the United States? I can't remember if he said he was in the United States or not, but let us know where, your vicinity of where you're located as well.
Mm.
Um,
Rita's just angling for headshots because you're so good looking. That's what it is at performing art. Send her a few shirtless pics. Send her your best Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park. You know, the pose when he's up on his, you know. Actually, send that to me. You're a good looking guy.
well, certainly do subscribe to my new channel, Roman Empire Matters. And also subscribe to Tom Jr. Jackson's channel. He's got his own Instagram as well as a YouTube channel. Support the members in our community, everybody. And don't forget, on Friday, I will be covering Masters of the Air with Darth Plato. We've been having such a great time watching that show live. I just love it. Dino Dinosaur is here, Russ.
We still don't know if it's Dino or Dino, and this is a mystery that we need to. And you know what? He never fucking answers. Like he knows, he knows. It's like a dollar on a fishing line. He's just reeling us in with this Dino Dino thing. What does he say here? Good health are Russ and Tom waiting for the me included Game of Thrones fans to cancel David Benioff three body problem Netflix series. It would be sad if it happened. Why would they cancel him because of that? Now, as far as I know, this is a very, 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 very deep and in-depth Chinese series of novels that have now been adapted, and I think the Chinese actually adapted them into a screenplay. But someone correct me if I'm wrong. Um, that deals with, if I'm not mistaken, first contact with an alien species, and basically we get trounced. There's like literally nothing we can do, but that's all I know of it. So I don't know, uh, Dino, if you can expand on that a little bit. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but it's interesting, and I sure hope that it won't. Wow, I hope it wouldn't be canceled. That's what you don't want it to be canceled. I got to check it out, Russ. I know nothing about it, but it sounds so good.
Well,
Dino,
I don't know what would be in the content that would cause Benioff to get cancelled. I mean, it's obviously an Asian thing, so I don't know if they're gonna the irony if they race swap the cast to fill it with the cast of Starship Troopers. That'd be great. Can you imagine? Then he would get cancelled. But I don't know. I mean, will it be a completely Chinese cast and just with them speaking in English, or I have no idea. I don't know anything about this show. But we shall see. If you can extrapolate a bit on that, mate, that would be awesome.
absolutely. And hello to Darth Plato, who's also here. So good to see you. And Wex Wuther is here. Hi, Wex. Jamin D is here, Russ.
Hey, dude.
And
Well, his little thing. So I was supposed to be writing this gladiatoric stuff, and I stopped. I was talking to my girlfriend Wendy, and I was telling her all about the 80s and the 90s and the shit that I used to get up to. And she said, oh, you should write a story about that. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, but who's going to want to read a story about me just taking loads of drugs and fooling around nightclubs and getting drunk all the time,
all
right?
of us.
Oh, well, not that interesting, but it did make me. We bounced, we played table tennis with the idea, and came up with a idea for this. And I thought, okay, I'll write that. And anybody that writes, this is quite an interesting. I don't know if it's interesting or not, but I'll bore you with it anyway. It was a thought experiment. I decided I was going to test out this Chat GPT stuff, right? So, did I get Chat GPT to write my outline? No, I did not. But I started to feed in the ideas into Chat GPT, right? And I said, look, what I want is a beat sheet of this, and I kept going and going, and within the space of how long did I spend? About 14, 15 hours sat here at the keyboard going backwards and forwards with Chat GPT. I actually spat out the outline that I kind of wanted. So that was really good. So, but what's my point? My point is that was last week, and I'm 60 pages into this already because a lot of the heavy lifting I'd already done with bullet points and notes. So now I'm onto that screenplay. And it's about heavy metal, hence the Jamin D metal thing. But anyway, I digress. What's
No,
next?
it's not a digression because that's what we're here um, with you and pretty much everybody in here who are creators or lovers of great entertainment to talk about this stuff. And from what I understand, Russ, first of all, that sounds amazing, and I can't wait to read it when you and Wendy are done with it. Um, the second thing that I was going to say is that what they're recommending to people, I was on a writer's workshop about how to write, and this writer mentioned that you already have the idea in your head. Like it's
Mm,
your story, Russ. You already have that idea. It's going to be a great story. What this writer recommended is to use Chat GPT to create your log line. And then you go ahead from that log line. It's already your story.
mm,
It's created a log line. Then you go ahead and write a new log line that's more tailor made to what you want.
mhm.
But in regards to constructing that initial log line, it's so important to let some other program do that because it can save a lot of time for you to get that.
It saved loads of time. It saved weeks actually because I'm big into writing. Sometimes my treatments go on nearly as long as a screenplay. So I think I did an 80-page treatment once for a
Wow.
90-page screenplay. You know what I mean? So I just wrote the whole thing and then changed little bits, but that was it. So this um was good. It was useful. It was useful.
Yeah, and I think, essentially your writer's room, you and Wendy in your writer's room, that it's a lot of work getting that to, that very fine-toned specificity that you need in order to create your story. It is a lot of work going back and forth.
It
And
is a lot
so
of work going back and forth. I would say that the specific I can't even say that word. The specific things that you're talking about, I don't think it was that great for that, and I don't think you can rely on it for that. But just to get the
exactly.
it just does it, and you go right. Okay, what about this arc? I wanted to do this. I wanted to do that. I wanted to do this. I wanted to, and it goes, "Brrrr," and it just does it, and you're like, wow, okay, that's useful.
It is useful, and I think as a tool, a lot of times it is pulling on um, a lot of major themes and honestly structure that when you finally are looking at it reassembled, it's your ideas, but it's
Mhm.
just reassembled in a different way. And you already, like, as a writer, you're already aware. It's like, I think that's almost it. I know I have to move this. I know I have to put that in. I know I have to rearrange that. And it feels good to like be able to have an extra step. It's like having this extra editor who is telling you, well, I don't know about that. When you're lucky enough to have someone who, as you're writing, to be your mentor, and they're looking at your work and they're telling, you know what, I think you need to go more in a direction this way. That's that person. Not all of us have that person in our lives, but I think a lot of this AI can do that and quite effectively. But have no fear, everybody who's listening to this, it can't produce what a human being can produce.
No,
It just doesn't have the ability to
it
do
does
that.
absolutely doesn't, and you can tell. I think we're away off yet uh, for it being able, for you to be able to, give you a story about Conan versus Xena versus Red Sonja, and it just goes it'll just pull bits and it lies. Chat GPT doesn't know what it's talking about half the time, but as a time saving tool, yeah, I would recommend it if you know what you want before you start. I would be leery of trying to work with it, trying to get ideas from it because I don't think that's the best. But yeah, it was useful. Anyway, we move on.
Yeah, and I did just want to. I know you want us to move. I did just want to say to everybody that for all its uses, writers that are using it are not using it verbatim. It's not that kind of a tool. It's an inspirational program, but it's not something that's being used verbatim. At least for writers with integrity, like Russ, like myself, we're not doing that. So I did just want to mention that because there is kind of this misnomer, and perhaps other writers have used it as full on. That's what they're going to use. But you can always tell the quality is not up to par if you go ahead and substitute that kind of resource tool. It's a resource tool as far as I'm concerned. Um, Irene says, even though she's not here, ha ha ha, our incest is the best when you can't have the rest.
Yeah, Cersei and JB. Yeah,
She just played that role, and I'm not defending her actions, but we know for years and years and years and years and hundreds of years that families, especially if you were from a certain type of family or they wanted to keep money and power in the family, that this sort of stuff happens. So it wasn't so far of a stretch. It just was, maybe a little bit more in our face as we're seeing it. So I did want to mention that, and done so perfectly. Want to thank Stubble McShave.
Hmm.
Stubble, how are you? Says, good morning, guys. Here's a cup of coffee to go with the eggs for your Sunday brunch. I so appreciate that, Stubble. I am going to use that for that exactly. And maybe, you know what, Russ, I kind of am feeling inspired by what we've been talking about this morning about using chat gpt or some of these ai models, and maybe we'll do a stream one of these days where we use one and create something, or maybe we could rewrite the ending of Game of Thrones here and see how it could be used to enhance it. I think that would kind of be a fun Sunday brunch one of these days. You know, we'll use it to help us create that log line, and then we'll paraphrase and go ahead and recreate it to the specifications we want. So I think it would be fun to do something like that going forward. Also, Mario, sorry, Marco Lani is here. Marco Lani, hi Marco. Marco says, any chance we don't get a Deadpool trailer today? There is nothing else of interest. Haven't said that about the Super Bowl spots for a while. So you know something, Russ, today is a major day in the US. It's Super
Mhm.
Bowl Sunday.
I'd
And
forgotten, but
right
yeah.
now, a few blocks from here, there's about 100,000 people on the boardwalk running into the water because this is what they do on Super Bowl Sunday morning.
Mhm.
They run into the ocean. It's freezing cold, but it's a polar bear day. So
Ah,
they do it for like Make-A-Wish Foundation. And, you know, essentially, you know, they're like, do you want to come out there? And it's like, I did not want to go into the cold water this morning. I couldn't do it. I actually feel like I'm getting a cold. So I didn't want to push, you know, push it in a sense. But you know, it's last year we had close to 125,000 people who did it. So
legit.
this year, I'm sure that there's close to 100,000 and who are diving into the water right now on the boardwalk. I'm not out there. I'm warm and inside, but I did want to mention it. Gee, I'm sure those people could use a cup of coffee right now, Stubble, going forward. Gary Bando Sandwich Worthington is here, Russ.
Hello, mate. How are you, girl?
Good to see you, Gary. Says happy and hello and happy Lunar New Year. It is the Lunar New Year. For those of you who are celebrating the Lunar New Year, happy New Year. So good to see you guys. Happy New Year to those of you who are celebrating. I don't know who's celebrating, but something to think about. And what else do we have going on here, Russ? Wow, there's a lot of comments that I feel like I missed.
Mm.
But certainly, it was interesting to start off with this Game of Thrones comment because that is something that I really am looking forward to, Russ, as they continue with the series and it comes out again. Mr. Londell's Groovy Movies is here, Russ.
Hello, mate. How are you? What does he say here? Mr. Long's Green Movie says, a round of applause. Then why all the wailing and gnashing of teeth because Snow didn't kill the bad guy? It was Arya that killed the bad guy, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I was never. You see, the thing about Game of Thrones is I was never that nerdy about it. I've never read. I tried to start reading the books, and I just thought they were a bit crap, to be honest with you. And I didn't really. I just didn't grab me in a way that, say, David Gemmell grabbed me. Like from the first page of the first book I read of Gemmell's, I was in, and I was all in, and I went running out and bought all of his books.
Yeah, it's a good point. Stubble says it was funny how many people named their daughters Daenerys.
Yeah,
I
that was a thing. That was a thing, wasn't it, at the
really.
time? Yeah, 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 yeah. He's quite right. He's quite right.
I didn't know that. That is really interesting. Um, and I guess it just shows how much they love the character. Mario goes on. I don't know if you mentioned this. It would that if they canceled David, they would also harm a lot of people that worked on the project. And Mark Spector's Avatar says, "I finally woke up early to catch your show. Are you on the West Coast, Mark? Um, if not, it's still very nice to see you, Mark. Okay, I have my answer, Russ.
Hmm.
Um, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm trying to get a self employed voiceover business off the ground before I finally take to stage. It's a challenge. Thank you for your interest. Yes, a performing artist. Well,
That's brilliant, man.
best of luck to you with the voiceover business, and certainly it is needed. So please certainly do go ahead and do that. Darth Plato says, don't use Chat GPT at all. It's being used in so many government, places and the government and private industry. Darth Plato. Um,
I think it's more to do with the fact that when you put data into Chat GPT, you don't own that data. So let's say, because I asked it to do a synopsis of my first novel because I couldn't be bothered to do the work because it's really hard. And I said, "Are you familiar with this book by this person? Gladiatrix by Russell Whitfield." "Yes, I am."
yes, of course.
"Great."
Yes.
"Yeah." "Okay, great. Can you do me a one-page synopsis of that?" And it starts off, and I'm like, "No, that's not what happens." So what's my point? My point is, if I put the whole book in there, then that everything that I'd written would then be for use by everybody else. So
Well, I just assume that people were just doing that anyway. I don't think they're going to use it, but I think that they'll see what it comes up with and are inspired by it. And I think that most serious writers are not necessarily using any of the stuff verbatim. They're just wanting to see how the structure is. I think the structure is a lot of it. And as you said, you didn't agree with what its summary was. I think you and I both realized that it's not going to write anything that we kind of like are passionate about. It'll give us a nice, gentle introduction to a story or a screenplay, but beyond
yeah,
that,
yeah, I mean, I didn't even use it for that. As I said, I just wanted it to do the. I just wanted it to do the heavy lifting of putting things in the right place in the beat sheet document for me, and just structuring all of that, and that really worked. But yeah, I mean, once you start putting those things in there, then it's you. So that idea. It's not a particularly original idea, so I couldn't give a fig about it. To be honest, it's not about the idea; it's about the delivery, right?
Mhm. Yeah, Wex Luther says, no, chat GPT, faster isn't better. Darth Plato says, if you put your work into it, it may chop it up and duplicate, randomize it in someone else's chat work. Of
It
course,
absolutely will.
yeah.
It's not even May. It absolutely will do that.
Yes, it does do that, Darth Plato. I mean, it's pretty much any published work it can do that too. So, and that includes research papers, and other types of published work as well, peer-reviewed journals, anything, white papers. It's all in there and it's being
Mm.
used constantly. So, I think that for certain types of language, like there are some certain types of code that it's even being used for and official documents. So, just keep that in mind. Yeah. Thank you for that. That's very interesting. Gary says it's a tool, not a solution. Yeah, it is a tool.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
And Dahlia is here.
Hello,
Hey,
Thalia.
how are you? Says happy Sunday, everyone. So good to see you, Thalia. Um, and who else do we have here? Oh, yes, guys, check out Mr. Londell's Groovy Movies. Certainly do like and subscribe to that. Oh, wow, a performing artist. Um, well, Mr. Londell's Groovy Movies talks about Arya killing the Night King was unexpected, but no one takes a look at her journey through the series. She had the skill to do the job.
Yeah, she
Yes.
was the assassin, wasn't she? I mean, she'd learned from the faceless man that was the. Did he die?
I don't know. I have
I
to go
can't. I
in
think
there.
he did. I'm sure he did. Yeah, I liked him, and I think he was killed. Um, Yeah, I mean, look, it's been raked over the coals. It just wasn't good. Nothing about it was good. Someone earlier on, I think it might have been Wex, was it Mario? Mario was commenting on the tactics that were used in the final battle and all that kind of thing. And you could say, oh well, it's a fantasy universe, and I think the genre is called, I think it's heroic fantasy or low fantasy or something like that. So yeah, it doesn't have much in the way of wizards and and magic being a huge thing, but it's operates by and large under the rules that we do. So therefore, sending off your cavalry into the darkness against a bunch of immortal zombies without infantry support, without artillery, it was mad. It was just silly, and I don't know why they made those decisions. Well, I guess just have them charge off and then they all die. That's We have to get rid of the Dothraki somehow, so we'll have them all die. Except they all come back later, so that's all well and good. Not as zombies, but they find more Dothraki from somewhere under the table, I guess.
Under the table. A performing artist for 4.99 super chat. Thank you so much, a performing artist. That is so generous of you, and I do appreciate it. A performing artist says, "Watch the German film The Teacher's Lounge
Hmm.
last night. High recommend."
Mm.
Ooh. And he goes on to say, "I hope to watch the indie female teen drama film How to Have Sex today." It sounds like a perfect film, performing
Mm.
artist. I can't wait to hear what your thoughts are on How to Have Sex. It looks amazing, and I love indie films. I haven't seen The Teacher's Lounge. That seems like an amazing story. Russ, have you seen any of these movies? I have not seen either of them.
No, no, I haven't. No.
Hmm. Let me just see if I can bring it up just really quick. Teachers Lounge 2023. Um, and it looks very interesting. They're advertising. Um, Let me just mute that for a second. Um, it's a teacher who has to respond. I just want to kind of show it. Sorry, I'm so slow. I'm doing like the one finger thing here. Um, it says when one of her students is suspected of theft, teacher Carla Nowak decides to get at the bottom of the matter. Caught between her ideals and the school system, the consequences of her actions threaten to break her. Ooh, wow. That is amazing. That sounds really good. A performing artist.
Very
Uh,
low key.
yes.
That sounds like, low budget, low key, incredibly well acted kind of story, right there. I mean, that sounds like pretty normal, right? That's a proper drama going on there. Yeah, sounds good, man.
Look at all the awards that it's won.
Mm,
And certainly teachers, it's a very popular topic pretty much in general for drama, Russ. One of the number one dramas, comedy dramas, I guess, in the United States is a show called Abbott Elementary
mm.
about kids at an elementary school. Let's go ahead and look at How to Have Sex, which is the other show. Look, a 7.5 out of 10. Wow. Let's go ahead and look at How to Have Sex just really quick. Here it is.
There it
Just
is.
I have no problem. This State Farm thing keeps popping up. Sorry, guys. How to Have Sex. I'm totally fine with the notion of exploring these movies about sex or sexual awakening or whatever. Three British teenage girls go on a rites of passage holiday, drinking, clubbing, and hooking up in what should be the best summer of their lives. What should be? Does that mean that they don't use condoms? Does it mean like what do they get some
I
bad
imagine it will be things will take a dark turn.
certainly a performing artist. I think maybe everybody, not just young people, but everybody should watch How to Have Sex because they've actually done, you guys are going to hate me for this, but they've done like, research studies about when you are hooking up with somebody that you don't know. Yes, I'm going to go there, and what you should do, especially in the EDM scene, and what you should do and what you shouldn't do. It's like you definitely should be wearing protection when you're doing that. There are certain things, certain actions you should be asking the person before you do certain things with them. So maybe this film addresses that. And I certainly don't have any problem with a film that wants to educate people. From what I can see here, this might be an education that they will never forget. So thank you for bringing it to our attention. And thank you so much for the super chat, a performing artist. I so do appreciate the kindness of you doing that. What do you think, Russ? Are you going to watch How to Have Sex?
Um, Probably need a few pointers. So if it's got like a bit of an instruction manual on how I can up my game, given the liturgy of complaints I've had, since my awakening in the 1980s, perhaps I could use a few pointers. So maybe I will. Thank you for the recommend, performing artist.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Um, and as always, thanks so much, Darth Plato, to send this to Rob. Yeah. Well, you know something? There's a reason why I think, I don't know whether young kids still want to go out and party and do what happens in How to Have Sex. I'm not sure if this generation is into that. I mean, my generation was totally into that and the generation after that, but I'm at a loss as to whether that is a consistently something that we're seeing in the generation. So
They are. I can speak from personal experience. I think vast majority. No, I'm not going to say the vast majority. A lot of kids are out doing exactly the same things that we used to do. It's just you don't hear about it. A lot of people equally spend their time online not doing those things, and that's becoming a social problem. I was talking to Sam about it actually. My daughter Sam the other day. She's 19, and Wendy as well. We were having a chat, and one of the things about social media, yes, it's a blessing, but it's also a curse, and I think it's become such a gigantic part of our society, but sociologically, we haven't really adapted mentally or societally to be able to sort of deal with it, and it's become a lot of it where you think it would be like an open forum for frank and funny discussion and finding other Warhammer 40,000 fans or Game of Thrones fans or football fans or whatever it happens to be, and all that sort of thing, but it hasn't. It's become a shit show of division. um, Even look, I love boxing. I go into boxing chats a lot, and the way that people go at each other, and like when you take a step back from sport, right, and you realize that there's a multi-billion-dollar industry about people just talking bollocks because they're saying, oh well, he should win this fight, and he's and then he goes and gets knocked out, or the San Francisco 49ers ought to win today because of this, that, and then they go and lose. Like the people that you don't know, but you see people getting into really heinous arguments over, whether Tyson Fury's any good or not. You think to yourself, well, why? So yeah, I just don't think we're societally there yet, and of course it's changing all the time. So when you think you got a handle on it, it becomes something else. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, and certainly what I think is interesting is this desire to have social interaction, which was kind of beaten out of us in a sense or pushed, we had to suppress it during the lockdowns, and people are having difficulty kind of getting back into, let's say a lifestyle where they are going out as much, and I think it's something to think about. Stubble says, I'm pissed that some record companies have started to auto-tune old records. They've altered live performances by Freddie Mercury and other famous voices. The result.
What?
Yes, they
What?
are. They own it. I mean, what they're essentially doing is, since they own a good portion, a good percentage of these albums, and they'll just re-release it completely auto-tune. It sound very different from the original performance, especially jazz. Stubble. One of the first things I used to watch on YouTube were these incredible jazz performances of a lot of jazz greats. People would upload them. Thank God bless you, whoever you were. All these guys who went and uploaded all these amazing jazz performances by singers. They were doing singers and standards and all sorts of incredible things that is probably still on YouTube. If you want to see the originals, that's really the only way, or go and see a live performance. But even that, Russ, do people, what's going on? I mean, Taylor Swift is the only person I ever hear about concerts these days, but people must want the live performance because they're willing to pay hundreds of dollars, Russ, just for
Mm.
one ticket. So there is a demand for a live performance. I mean, it's always there.
Yeah, it is, especially now because like they, for the performers, don't make any money any other way. Like, yeah, a few fans, loyal fans will go and support you. Like, when Gunship bring out a new record, I'll buy the record because I want to support Gunship, and the same with the Midnight and things like that, or Iron Maiden, Saxon, whatever. But my £12.99 or whatever isn't gonna buy them lunch. But when they go out on tour, that's why you've seen concert tickets just, I don't know, quintuple, sextuple in price. I mean, it's ludicrously expensive to go to a live show. And frankly, seeing Iron Maiden last year was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant, but it was no more brilliant than when I saw them in 1987. You know what I mean? It was the same guys playing the same songs, doing the same thing. It was great. But the tickets, for Hammersmith Odeon were a hell of a lot cheaper than they were, I suppose, adjusted for inflation. I don't even think they would be as expensive as all that. But they have to make their money somehow.
Certainly, Russ, and there are all sorts of other things involved in this. And my biggest concern, Stubble, really is just the record companies, selling a product that's not authentic. I guess it's what this really is, and the adjustments and the changes. And we're not talking about, putting one person's name on and another person is singing. We're talking about completely altering these original performances that people loved. I mean, imagine them going ahead and taking the Man in Black, what is his name? Johnny
Johnny
Cash's
Cash.
Folsom Prison record and changing that up. I don't want them to change that around. I want it to be just as the same as when he performed it in front of the crew, that whole thing. So this is something to think about. And I think a lot of people are going to start to hold on to those original pressings, those original, cassette tapes or DVDs
Or
that you have.
CDs or whatever you've got, yeah.
Hold on to them because they're going to start to become rarer and rarer. Go to those flea markets and those garage sales that people are getting rid of whole collections and scoop them up. Bonzo Kilborn for a $5 super chat. Hi, Bonzo. How are you? Says RM makes my heart skip so many beats. It's like I had a double dose of the jab. Wow.
Mm.
Sorry, I'm late. Perhaps this indulgence can absolve my sins. You are absolved, Bonzo. Your sins are absolved. Although, no, you're absolved. You're fine, Bonzo. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. And yeah, Freddie Mercury. Can you imagine a crazy little thing called brunch? Oh, that is so sweet. I love that. And Bonzo, thank you for your generosity. You are always welcome here. Hope you and your family are well. We're already in February, guys. It's
Mm.
kind of February 14th, Valentine's Day is coming up next week. There's a lot going on. And I'm excited for this year. I can't believe we are already so far into it. Russ, I had the pleasure of speaking to you last week about a movie called One More Shot. And you reminded me there was another film called One Shot.
Mhm.
And I said, "Oh yeah." And I was like, "Didn't we watch that film?" And I couldn't remember if we had or hadn't, but we'd obviously talked about One Shot before because of course it has m- you know, I would say maybe the best action hero of our era, Scott Adkins in it. And he doesn't seem to really do anything wrong in his performances. They're so good. He looks great. He is a great actor. He I'm not going to say that he's like Charles Bronson, but Chuck Norris, but he kind of like reminds me of Chuck Norris, except his hair is a little bit darker.
Mhm.
Um, but he is so talented. I mean, I don't think it's fair to kind of put him in a hole and categorize him because he's capable of doing so many things, Russ. So I watched One Shot, and then recently, when I say recently, in 2024, One Shot came out in 2021, and it's an amazing movie. It's so good, Russ. I don't know how they had the energy and time to do this. It looks so good.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering to myself, like, it's not easy to follow up on a film like this. It's it actually reminds me of a lot of films that I've seen in the past that didn't necessarily run as smoothly as this one. Of course, it is filmed in one shot, hence I'm assuming that's why it's called that, correct, Russ?
That's absolutely correct. I'm not sure it actually was. I'm sure they used a little bit. Well, I don't think it was like a 1917 thing. But I don't know because I rented it off of the telly. I didn't buy the DVD for this one, so I really must do that. And if there was special features with it or not. But yeah, that's kind of the point.
Absolutely. Mr. Londo's Groovy Movies makes a point about this is always you should buy physical media, vinyl especially. And uh Stubble says, I'm not surprised your email contained the number 69. And that old Yorkshire geek says, sorry I'm late. Did I miss out? No, you didn't
No,
miss out.
you
You
missed
didn't
you missed now.
now.
You,
Is that what oh, did I miss anything? Is that what that means?
yes,
Okay. No,
maybe,
you
and
didn't.
now means nothing. So you didn't mean, yeah, you missed
Oh,
now.
fantastic. Old Yorkshire Geek, we're so happy to see you here. Guys, remember Old Yorkshire Geek also has a YouTube channel and he plays a lot of gaming as well as is accomplished artist. So do check out Old Yorkshire Geek on YouTube as well. Um, Mario Lopez is commenting on One Shot and One More Shot. He says they were so amazing. Thank you for the recommendation to me. They are both 10 out of 10 movies. Russ, I agree.
Not gonna lie,
Oh my
Scott Adkins delivers once again.
It's so amazing, Russ. What I'm seeing from Scott Adkins, and it is true. He's perfect. He's
Mm.
pretty much perfect. Like when you put him in front of a camera, you kind of like don't ever want to shut the camera off. But
I saw
he
an interview with him, and like the director was just making fun of him because of his good looks. Like he's going, "Well, look at him, just look at him." You know what I mean? Like that was the running joke of. So yeah, he's got movie star looks. He's got movie star talent. But as I've said in the past with Adkins, he said himself, he was too, not greedy, but just too keen and eager to take anything that was given to him in his early career, and he, by and large, puts that down to him being pigeonholed in lower budget movies. Mhm.
oh
You
um
know?
That's a thought. I did want to mention that this rating on here is total nonsense. This film is a 10 out of 10. It's just masterfully filmed, beautifully shot. And I know, like not every single scene you're going to see something angled in the way that you think should be. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm seeing things that I haven't seen before in a lot of action films, and I'm enjoying it.
Well, I think with one of the things I was really struck by, especially in the second movie, one more shot, was how messy the fights were and how great they didn't look. Okay, but that was almost as though it was almost by design. Now, don't forget, these guys are premier martial artists. I mean, they're so good at what they do, but they're doing this in one take. Like if you watch the fight scenes, especially in one more shot, that's one take. There's no cuts. There's no angle switching. It's one guy with a camera watching two guys do a 30-40 second fight scene. That's going to take it out of you. Then you got to get up and run down the stairs and do all of those things. And they did that. And that's it. These two films in particular just sort of brought a grittiness and a rawness um, to the proceedings that I haven't seen for a while. But I should say, why are we talking about this? Well, because it's awesome. But moreover, we almost got into it last week, I think, or the week before that. Um, that the cinematic landscape very much now seems to be changing. The superhero movie, um, if not dead or if not on life support, certainly doesn't seem to be attracting the interest or the excitement that once it did. But nature abhors a vacuum and all that sort of thing. So something's going to come in and take its place. And we hearken, or a lot of YouTubers seem to sort of harken back to days before superhero movies, and I kind of feel that we're seeing that. Not only with smaller productions like one shot and one more shot, because they've always been there. Like the direct to DVD actioner is a thing that started in the 80s and is going on today. You can just go and look. Scott Adkins makes 2 or 3 films uh, a year. You've got Michael J. White, you've got Marco Zaror, you've got all of these guys doing these. Dolph Lundgren's still doing them. John Claude Van Damme's still doing it. There's loads. There's loads. It's an industry in and of itself. However, what I am seeing is the return of the buff, good-looking expert dude that takes down oceans of bad guys, like we had with Arnold taking down everybody in Commando, and Sly taking down everybody in Rambo, and Chuck just taking down everybody because he's Chuck Norris. And there seems to be a higher budget, higher profile films that are now starting to meander their way into the cinema that are making some money, I believe. So I went and saw with Wendy. I went and saw David Ayer, David Ayer's The Beekeeper,
Hmm.
starring everybody's favorite Cockney hardman, Jason Statham. And um, in a stunningly original plot or original setup to the Beekeeper, Jason Statham, and you've never heard this before, is a former government operative that's highly trained, but has now retired to a life of peace and quiet. And now he lives as a beekeeper because he finds that the bees, it just brings him joy and peace. And he lives in um, not Maine, Massachusetts. He's in Massachusetts near Boston, and he rents a barn from this really nice lady who takes care of him and helps him to sort of not much time spent on this, but you kind of get they look out for each other, and she's almost like a mother figure to him, or if not, just someone that he can care for. And of course, things go awry. And what I loved about the beekeeper was the hook. The hook of the beekeeper was that this lady gets caught up in an online scam and loses millions of, she has like a charity thing that she set up. She loses all her money in one fell swoop, and something bad happens, and that then triggers Jason Statham to go and right some wrongs and bust some heads. But hold on a second. Happy Sunday, everyone. It's Wendy. Russ and I watched The Beekeeper and it was great. Russ has expanded my movie horizon. Oh, Wendy. I love her so much. She's so awesome. She's my favorite person. I can't believe you're here, Wend. Love you. Love you. Oh, now I've gone all red and I've
Hi,
lost my train of thought. Rita, take over. Sorry.
Wendy. It's such a pleasure to see you. Hope you are well. So great to have you here in the chat today. And of course, we are talking about The Beekeeper. And Wendy says, Happy Sunday, everyone. It's Wendy. Russ and I watched The Beekeeper, and it was great. Russ is expanding my movie horizons. Well, we're so
Likewise, I've watched lots of comedies that I would never have watched if not for Wendy's, and some of them are pretty good. So thank you, darling.
Well, I love to hear all of this, Wendy. It's such a pleasure to see you. Hope you're well. Hope you're having a great Sunday. And thank you so much for commenting on this, talking about The Beekeeper. And as you were saying, Russ, this rise of these action heroes, these operators, right? These special ops guys,
Hmm.
whether they're, SEALs or Rangers or I don't know what SOCOM. What are some of the terms in the
Well, here's the
British?
thing about the beekeeper, right? Um, it has the feel of executives and writers sat around going, that fucking John Wick, right? John Wick, that cost what, X amount, 10, 20, 30 million dollars, whatever the first one cost. And that's gone on to be a franchise. The Beekeeper has all of the ingredients to be a franchise movie because there's enough revealed about the clandestine world of the beekeeper and how far. So yeah, I should explain. So he is a literal beekeeper, but his job was also called a beekeeper, and beekeepers are like these highly trained operatives that nobody knows about, and they're there to sort of do things that even the army can't do, and assassinations and all that kind of. They're there to keep America safe. Um, so they send another beekeeper after Statham and all that. But there's a whole world, just like in John Wick, with the coins and the this and that. There's hints at a wider thing, and I think this film made money. I could be wrong, but I'm sure it was quite successful, and I hope that there's a sequel to it. I hope it becomes a franchise because we need more of this. There's so, Tom Junior Jackson says, didn't Stallone write The Beekeeper? Don't know. You've got the internet, man. Let us know. Um, but yeah, so then you've got this. So you've got that. You've just had Adkins doing the low budget thing. Now you've got Statham doing this. You've also had Aaron Eckhart do another standard job title. He's the bricklayer, which I imagine is just like a beekeeper, only different. Um, so he's doing that. Um, then you've got Jake Gyllenhaal. He's in the remake of the Patrick Swayze movie Roadhouse from the 80s, and which co-stars Conor McGregor. Aaron Eckhart's also in another movie where he's a retired UFC fighter that has to fight again to save his brother's farm or whatever he has to do. So what's my point with all of this? Oh, and then I heard recently that the terminal list, the one that I could never remember the name of, but now I have suddenly just remembered the name of. Apparently,
Yes.
Amazon apparently are now expanding the uh, terminal list universe into being a thing.
Good.
It's
I'm
it's going to
so
be a
glad.
cinematic or an Amazonic universe. In other words, how that plays into their recently um, much discussed diversity and equity and inclusion rules that they've brought in. I don't know, but these things are popular. So you've got that side of cinema, the white muscly guy sorting shit out.
Love it. Love
Whether it's Channing Tatum, whether it's Chris Pratt, or whether it's Jason Statham, or whether it's I tell you who else we got out there. We've also got Chris Hemsworth, who has life beyond Marvel,
Yes,
started his own
exactly.
franchise, right? One more movie in that one more oh, what was it called? Aaron?
Extraction.
Extraction. Yeah, one more Extraction movie. It's a trilogy, and then you can start to have your spin-offs, and you can have all of that stuff going on. So action has never really gone away, but it appears to be back, big style. Why? Because it puts asses in seats. So the decision to take Jake Gyllenhaal and Conor McGregor out of the cinema and stick them on streaming only is asinine. And I imagine that they'll pull out. And I think it's Doug Liman was the director, and he had a lot to say. A lot to say. Like he's boycotted the premiere. He's not going. He's like, no. They promised me this was a cinematic release. Then at the 11th hour, they've turned and go, nah, start. We'll just stick it on streaming. And Rob Burnett spoke a lot about this, about the cachet that the theatrical run will get you. Because if it does well, and Roadhouse will do well, and people will like it. I mean, it's how can you fail with something like Roadhouse? It gives it more oomph when it gets onto social media. So that's one side of it. Other side of it, um, was it the beekeeper? A Valentine's for you and I, for you and your honey. Yeah, well, it wasn't Valentine's Day, but you know, I've Wendy and I bounce movies, so it's kind of like one of yours, one of mine, one of yours, one of mine, one of yours, one of mine. That's kind of how we roll with that. But the other side of it is also now we've got Sydney Sweeney and another incredibly good-looking guy, the fella from Top Gun, whose name escapes me.
Tom Cruise?
No, 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 no. The guy who was the Maverick-esque
Oh,
cat.
yeah, 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 I know who you're
He's
talking
insanely good looking. Like he's so good looking, he hurts your eyes. He's got
Yeah.
everything, and he has that look about him where he can play like a really really nice guy, or he can be a rugged hero, or he can be a total a hole. He just has that. He could be the bully, he could be the jock, he could be the fighter pilot here, he could be all of those things. He's amazing. Um, and the romantic comedy with Sydney Sweeney. Now, who
Mhm.
doesn't love a romantic comedy? Well, guys, but guys will go to see a romantic comedy with their girlfriends. So these, you know, dead Glen Powell. Thanks, Tom. These big things that were huge in the past that were thought to have been wiped out by superheroes and Star Wars are back, and they're cheaper to make. They're more, the potential profits aren't as great. But if you're making a film, as has been said so many times, um, it, for 30-40 million dollars, and that film brings in 150-120 million dollars, and you've made bucks. All right, it might not be $1 billion, but it's a profitable movie. So I've heard a lot of talk about, online talk. There you go, Hitman. There's another one. Um, a lot of talk about why studios aren't doing this, why they're not making these movies. Well, it would appear, despite all the talk, that they are. And these films, here they are. They're out in the cinema. We can go and see them. We can go and enjoy them. And maybe that's just what we need. Like, we had the Sound of
Mm,
Freedom last year or the year before last.
mm.
Um, Now we've got all these action films coming out. So yeah, I'd be interested to hear what the chat thinks. But for me, I think we're heading in the right direction. And look, I love superhero movies as much as the next person. Um, but even for me, as like I've just sort of picked up online that the buzz just isn't there. And I think I was most struck by this because obviously I've never really made mine Marvel. I'm much more in the DC universe than I was ever in the Marvel universe. But James Gunn did a tweet about what's her name from House of the Dragon, Millie Alcock, been cast as Supergirl in the new DC universe, right? But the tweet I saw from him was, in case anyone missed it yesterday, I'm very happy to announce the. So why am I saying that? Because people are so not interested in Superman Legacy that the guy had to tweet out a major casting announcement twice because it didn't pick up any traction online. It just didn't. Like nobody cares. Nobody cares, James. Nobody cares. And I feel that that's the case with Marvel, and that's just my straw poll of one. Yeah, I'm sure Deadpool will do well off its based on its previous success and its brand name and its irreverence and all of that stuff. So I'm sure that'll be a bright spot in basically a landscape now where that's struggling to garner any attention whatsoever. I mean, who knew that Aquaman would be the most successful uh, DC theatrical release? Because we have to put Zack Snyder's Justice League in a place all of its own. But I think it was the most successful theatrical release since Black Adam, which had been the most successful release since Aquaman, right? And that made I think it made 400. So yeah, what does Wendy say? I make Russ watch wacky early 2000s comedies by Eurotrip. No, she doesn't make me. Watching movies with you on the couch is a delight, my darling, and I wish we could do it more often. And we'll be doing soon, so I can't wait. Now, Eurotrip was good. I enjoyed it, and it had boobs in it, so everyone's a winner.
Mm-hmm. And which is fantastic. Thank you so much, Wendy. We so appreciate you being here, and hope you are well. As I said before, Russ, you mentioned Sound of Freedom, and I talked about this film a lot because obviously you already know the plot of the film. It's about rescuing people who are trafficked. It's human trafficking. Okay.
Hmm.
And there was a lot of controversy around the film, but I didn't care whether there was controversy around the film. I love this film. I think it's a great film. Russ, I was surprised at certain moments in the film where I thought that the lead character was not going to make it out. And I wasn't expecting to see that in a film where I knew the plot. Like I knew exactly what was going to happen. They're going
Hmm.
to go in and going to get the kid and come back out, right? There's no mystery about the plot, Russ.
Yeah, right.
But I was frightened for him. There were some moments where the direction in this film, it felt as if he wasn't going to make it out of that jungle. And I think that when you can do that for a film that costs, what did it cost? Like $12 million or $20 million to make this? When
It
you
cost them 12 million to buy the rights back off of Disney, who shelved it because apparently it was QAnon adjacent. Apparently.
Exactly. And when you can go ahead and put in an element in a film that doesn't look like it's the most expensive film ever made either, but it strikes a chord, it hits a nerve. There's something about this film that when I watched it, I don't know how if you've seen it or anybody else has seen it. When I watched it, I didn't think he was going to make it. I thought this was it. They're going to die. They're all going to die. He risked his life, to do this, and it was worth the risk, but I wasn't expecting to have that experience. And I think because it does have that in it, it does really hit a chord and strike a nerve. And I think in addition to the fact that, people want to see stories like this, they really did a good job because it had that in the film too.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And you raise a very interesting point when you talk about how it looks, and perhaps it didn't have the biggest budget in the world. The paradigm has been, and this has been spoken about on other channels. It's not like this is news to anybody, but the paradigm has been, spend 300 or 400 million to make a billion, and the films have to look a certain way, and they have to have spectacle, and they have to have this, and they have to have that. Well, no, they don't. They just have to be good. They just have to be good. People will forgive, perhaps if it wasn't made with $100 million or $200 million, they'll forgive that if the story's good. And here's the thing: we talk a lot about representation, stuff like that, and you've just now been sitting here espousing how much you loved One Shot and One More Shot and Sound of Freedom, but you've never been a white dude, special operator, highly trained, who's now retired and
No.
now is cool. But that's not in your paradigm. So you don't. People don't need to see themselves exactly represented on the screen the entire time for something to be good, for you to get behind something. And I think that's a really important point. Um, they just need to be good. And it wouldn't have mattered if the lead of Sound of Freedom had not been Jim Caviezel, but had been Michael Jai White or Denzel Washington or Wesley Snipes or I was gonna say Pedro Pascal, but I really can't bear Pedro Pascal. But even if it had been Pedro Pascal, like it wouldn't have mattered where the guy's from. It matters that the guy's a good actor and he's in a good film that tells a really, really good story that we can all get behind, that we can all relate to. So for me, especially The Sound of Freedom, the criticism leveled at that film and its content was like, geez, get over yourselves, guys. This was a real guy. This is based on a true story, right? This guy really did this. And I cannot imagine the courage it took to do it, to fly in the face of your employers and who are the government of the United States, because you felt so strongly that these children had to be rescued from what is the worst fate imaginable. Dude, come on, like everyone can get behind that. So yeah, who was it that said that the leading action man is back? I kind of I missed that, but I'm kind of hoping
It was
that.
Gary Vander Sanders Worthington. Oops.
All right, Gal. Yeah, I hope so, because I'm not saying to the exclusion of everything else, but just to have more Expendables-esque movie. I know that the last one wasn't great, but I bought it on Blu-ray. It's got a director's commentary, and I'm looking forward to listening to that commentary to see what decisions were made where. But yeah, talking of diversity, we've had superhero it's been saturated with superheroes now. Perhaps entertainment, while we've been sleeping and bitching and moaning and complaining about the content, while we've been sleeping, perhaps it is returning to a diverse set of product that's coming out that may have been sitting on shelves for a number of years, like this one, or maybe brand new. Or I don't know. I'm not a historian when it comes to that sort of thing, but hopefully we're going to see a bit more of that, because I love going to the cinema. I absolutely love it. And if I can go to the cinema to see people getting executed, blown up, shot, thrown off of buildings, karate, glamorous locations, I'm there with it. I'm there for it. But equally, if I want to go see Glenn Powell, Sydney Sweeney, and have a fun experience watching those, it's there. And I can't remember the last time that a romantic comedy got so much press. At the same time that Sydney Sweeney's also in a big, big, big superhero movie, Madame Web, like the Sonyverse. She's in that. No one's talking about Madame Web, are they? They're talking about the romantic comedy.
Yeah, and you make a good point, Russ. A performing artist talks about wanting to see more male heroes kind of pass the torch, get the torch from Sly and Arnold. Liam Neeson, Jason Statham, Keanu took the torch.
Mm.
They've been here for a while. I want to see Ray Fisher, Russ. I want to see Ray. Am I saying the right person?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I want to see him in a film like this. And I also want to see Idris Elba do a little bit more like this. I don't know if he wants to do it now, so many years later, but I'd like to see those two guys also do this, because they have that profile where I know Idris can do it. So Idris is kind of doing things like this, but
Cool, for
I think
real.
he, kind of use even more if he still wants to do it. It's been so long. But Ray Fisher, when I saw him in uh gosh, what is the name of it? Just this past Rebel
Rebel
Moon.
Moon.
I'm like, he needs to be on the camera more. And he's so attractive and he looks the part. Like his body, his entire physique, he
Mm.
fits into this club. It's not everybody wants to do films like that, but Russ, it'd be such a shame if we didn't see more that night.
I
I
just want to
also,
touch on I want to touch on what performing artist says here. So he
yeah,
says, "I want to see more modern male heroes take the torch from Sly, Arnold, Liam Neeson, Jason Statham, Keanu. Jason Statham and Keanu took the torch, but they've been around for a while. Gratefully, we're getting more." See, the thing is, and this has been talked about a lot, but this is where it kind of does become important. Arnold, Sly, Liam, Jason, Keanu are all established names. So if you write a movie and Statham reads it and goes, "Yeah, I want to do it," then your movie's getting made because he is a movie star. He might not be on the level of a Tom Cruise or someone like that, but he's got brand recognition. But then there was me struggling to remember Glenn Powell. We need
right.
actors like Glenn Powell. I would say like Scott Adkins, who I love dearly, like Ray Fisher. In fact, like what was the name? So I don't know the names of any of the people from Rebel Moon, apart from Jimon Houston, Honsu, Sophia Botella, Ray Fisher, and what's his name? The English guy. His name's gone out of my head. King Arthur, Green Street, Charlie Hunnam, Charlie Hunnam, right? But they're not big stars yet, so we need them to. You kind of want to go and see the Charlie Hunnam movie or go and see the new Glenn Powell movie. When you get to that note here, actually, he does it right here. Sly and Arnold. You don't need anything else. It's Sly and it's Arnie, and you know exactly who we're talking about. Keanu, you know who we're talking about. All right, he says Jason Statham, but if you said Statham, we know who you're on about. Adkins, we know who you're on about. So we might be on the cusp of performing artists, but yeah, I absolutely want to see more of that stuff. I mean, why not? It's somebody said in the chat earlier on, it's fun, it's escapism, and that's what it's all about. And even though um, the lady that gets killed in the Beekeeper is African American, and her daughter, who happens to be in the FBI and investigating the case, but hey, it's an action movie, and I don't care. Also obviously African American. That is not never mentioned once. Like that whole thing, they just happen to be an African American family, and he lives on the farm, and that's it. Be all and end all of it. No one's oh well, if only the beekeeping industry was more diverse. No, it just yeah, right. It just wasn't that at all. Um,
Exactly, and I think that there are, as I said, if they wanted to just go ahead and look at the talent that's already out there, there's plenty of let's say, I'm gonna say it has to be a man as far as I'm concerned. I want it to be a man. There's plenty of men out there in Hollywood who can fit these roles,
mm,
and there's a variety of them, so there certainly isn't a shortage of it. I just wanted to get back to the terminal list really quickly and talk
mm,
about this series by Chris Pratt that I reviewed with Lorena on our Toxic Male Appreciation
mm.
show together because we loved it so much. He is, of course, an operator, and he has to set things right. And there's a lot of these. Reacher is another one I would add, Russ, to the list. Reacher
Yes,
has
there you
turned
go.
into another fantastic series that we've been enjoying with Alan Richton. But I did just want to mention that in the terminal list, if you guys haven't seen it, they're not just giving you one episode. This is like 8 episodes or so of
Oh,
an
it's
hour
sick.
packed of action. So it's not anything short, or they cover all the bases. There's some beautiful scenes in it. I think it's really a masterpiece, and I'm glad they're continuing it because I was upset when it ended. I was like, oh, it's the end,
Do you know what though, Aura? I'm a little bit concerned for your health um, going forward because the League of was it the Ungentlemanly Warfare movie that is coming out shortly. Guy Ritchie movie starring Henry Cavill and Alan Richardson in the same movie at the same
Oh
time.
god. Oh god.
I'm sure they'll be gearing up and changing into their frogman outfits, and they'll be giving it all of that. And I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure you can cope. I'm just putting it out there.
I want to see them rough and ready in all of their gear, all of the magazines clipped to their vests, you know, the paint on their faces, jumping out of helicopters, grabbing, weapons, grabbing onto stuff, just all that stuff that they're going to be doing in the film. And I don't know. I just really think it's an exciting time for us to see so many toxic males that I love that we
Mm.
need in entertainment. It's so important, a huge, important part of entertainment going forward, Russ. And I'm just so excited about it. And I did want to mention Rod Thunderheart is here. Hi, Rod.
Oh,
Rod
hello, Rod.
Thunderheart, who
Mm.
gives us $10 Canadian. Rod, you are so generous today. Thank you. Who has some incredible news, Russ. I can barely, my heart is still pounding from what you were talking about. It says,
You can't talk. Get on the Henry Cavill, Adam Richardson, shirtless. Oh my god.
it says, Hail, RM and Russ. My new copies have shipped out.
Sweet. Round of
Wonderful.
applause for Rod, everyone. This is good
RM,
news.
I'm sending you a copy. Yay! It might even be available in a hardcover. That is wonderful news. I should get them a couple of days. Yes, I should get them a couple of days. Your address. I will give you my address. Thinking about Dune this afternoon. Of course, Rod, I follow you on Facebook. It's my name is Remo on there. So I am following you. Rod, I am so excited. I'm the one who liked, I think you took a picture of yourself. It might be the picture that's here. You went down, was it 6 pounds? 4 or 6 pounds? I can't remember. I think it's you. On Facebook. Hopefully that I'm talking about the right person, Rod. But Rod Thunderheart's book is available, everybody. Can you please let us know if it's available through Amazon? We certainly do want to support it going forward. If you
Tom's
can,
put a link to it in the chat.
absolutely. I'm just looking to see if I can find him on Facebook. I think it is him because I wouldn't forget that name. But Rod, it's been many years, Rod, that yes, it was your post. Your workout post, and I think this is the picture that I liked here.
Oh,
For
sweet.
you, looking
Yeah, look
fit.
at him. He's fucking built, dude.
It's not focusing on your face for some reason because I have the blur image on. I could take it off. But what I was going to say, guys, is Rod is pumping iron. He is pumping iron. Okay, he is getting them gains on, getting that slim look on. Rod, you are certainly encouraging many of us to look our best, and I think that's also very important at a time where it feels like that's maybe not be the focus. I took the blur off so we could see it properly. You can see me properly now, right? Okay. So here's his picture. Guys, look at that. Look at this fit level
Jeez.
of fitness.
Do not spill Rod's pint. Rod will fuck you up.
Looking badass and taking names. Rod's book it's here. I am excited for this, Rod. Please let us know where, for those of you who would like to buy a copy, please do let us know how and where we can get that from you, Rod. Um, Thank you for this. If you could help me out, Tom. Um, Rod, for another $5 Canadian
Oh,
super chat.
wow.
Thank you. So generous, Rod says, see through love at Frisian Press. Soft cover, hardcover. I'll need a mailing. Yes, I will certainly give you a mailing address. I'm going to send it to you on here. It's going to be from Remo. Okay. Rod, I will send it to you. I'll instant message you with my address. Rod, I am so excited uh to see your book. This is so amazing
That is
to
amazing,
see.
man.
Yes, absolutely. Something to think about. So excited, guys. Do support Rod Thunderheart's book, See Through Love, at Friesen Press. Do pick up a copy. It's so wonderful to support another creator here in the community, Rod. And you are certainly looking very sharp in the gym as well. Such an
Well, every
inspiration.
girl's crazy about a sharp dressed man, or so I heard.
It is so wonderful to see that, everybody. And thank you so much, Rod, for the super chats. You were so generous. Everybody's been so generous today. Thank you, everybody, for being so generous. And certainly, we really do appreciate your kindness. Also, want to say hello to Brogu. Hey,
Oh, hey,
Brogu.
Brogu.
It says, hello, everyone. Hello, RM and Russ. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Yeah. Yeah. It's so good to see you, Brogu. Sure hope you are doing well. Um, you guys have a lot of comments about of the series and everything. Thank you so much, Tom. Here is the link for See Through Love on Frisian Press. It's in the chat. Thank you, Tom. You are the best. Really do appreciate it. Go ahead and support the creators in our community, everybody. It's so important to do that. Pick up Rod Thunderheart's book, See Through Love, on Frisian Press, everybody. It's so wonderful. Yes, I am incorrigible. Um, Now, Nathan's talking about the commercials or movie trailers do we hope to see during the Super Bowl? Well, I can tell you this much. There was only one person that I was hoping to see, and I guess you guys could have guessed it. It was Tiesto, DJ Tiesto, who I have been going to shows of his. It might be 20 years that I've been seeing him on and off. He does a residency in Las Vegas right now for the next 4 months, and he was supposed to be at the Super Bowl, performance halftime thing, and unfortunately, he had a family emergency, and he can't do it today.
Oh, dear.
So Yeah, so I hope he's well. Not that Tiesto would ever be watching this, but I hope you are well, Tiesto. I will probably see you in Las Vegas sometime this year. What about you, Russ? Do you have any movie trailers or commercials or anything that you're hoping to see during the Super Bowl, or at all that's coming up?
I'm not gonna lie. I doubt if I will be watching the Super Bowl. I don't even know who's playing. It's the 49ers against somebody, isn't it? Who are they playing? Do we know?
Well, I don't know, but there's a
So
lot of
if Keely Chow was here, she'd probably tell us it was Alabama. It's certainly not the Patriots. I can tell you that.
There's a lot of
Um,
very good-looking football players out there. So, although I don't follow the game necessarily, because like when my father was alive, I had no choice but to follow
mhm,
American football because he had it on 24/7. And Russ, he had it on, and when there were no games playing, he had on ESPN Sports or something, and
mm.
they would show like games from 1950 to present day. So I've seen more football games than I can even mention. I've seen games from the 1950s and 60s and 70s. And I'm like, why are we watching? My father's like, oh, I didn't see this game the first time around. And I always wanted to see this game so he could go to watch it on ESPN because they would show like old games again. And so I've watched hundreds of football games with like all these old time names, and it's great. Like I really, it's a good memory to have with my dad, but never in my wildest dreams would I ever expect that I would have been watching old football games with my dad for so many years growing up. And that's fine. Like it's good. It's a great thing. I was happy that ESPN had that and my dad can enjoy it. But yeah, so whenever I think about football, I always think about my dad and how excited he used to get, and my mom, and I would say, "Are you okay, Dad?" And my dad like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, they're gonna win." And I'm like, "It's so great." Like he's so dedicated, kind of like how you are with your cricket, um, Russ. That's something to think about. And we have, I know the World Cup's going to be coming here. The final's going to be played in the US, I guess the
Mhm.
next one. So that
Oh,
should be very
you know, there's something that's supposedly coming out soon that we haven't seen trailers of. It's often been mentioned on, Rob's show and the Drinkers show and stuff like that. We haven't even seen a trailer for this yet. Like, I can't remember what it is, but I'm sure whatever that thing is, it'll have a trailer in the Super Bowl. Um, I'm just trying to think. Like, maybe we'll get a Rings of Power season 2 trailer. How great would that be?
Oh, that would be great. That would be so great. I think it would be amazing to see something that we're not expecting. And I think the commercials are usually pretty good. But yeah, that's what's going on, at least when it comes to, oh, thank you so much, Gary Bando Sandwich Worthington, who says Tiesto is sick. Yeah, he's great, isn't he? Oh, I really enjoy him. Darth Plato says, uh, I'd like to see a commercial with Joe Montana. Yeah, I remember Joe Montana, and it's Kansas City Chiefs versus the 49ers. Go, whoever's gonna win. I don't know who it is. Bonzo says, Russ, how can you watch cricket and not watch
Well,
American?
I would turn that round, Bonzo, and say, do you watch cricket? Because I have watched America Ball. I've actually been in pubs watching America Ball, supporting and cheering because I kind of know the rules now, and I can kind of see why people get so excited about it. So if I watch it, I can get into it, and I kind of know what's going on. But it will never be rugby, and it was so sweet. Oh my God, I was drinking those salty Welsh tears last night like it was red wine. It was going down so well because England were playing Wales and England were being crap, and they were 10 points down at halftime. I think it was 14-4, and England only snatched victory from the jaws of defeat and sent the Welsh home well beaten. They were that close. The Welsh were that close to getting a win against us, but guess what? They failed. And I laughed hard. Sorry, but I did.
Well, Russ, as you know, my family's from the Caribbean, so cricket is huge in the Caribbean, as you already
Hmm.
know, the Windies. And certainly it is an amazing looking game. I don't understand all the rules, so it makes it hard for me to watch it because I'm like, oh, what happened? And I kind of understand what the concept is, but I don't know all the rules. So one of these days you're gonna have to help me out with the rules. But yeah, I like rugby. I like, but I haven't watched rugby in the Rugby World Cup since Lomu was in it, and that was in the
Oh,
90s.
it's the 90s.
Yeah, so and I remember, like, he was such a sensation, And of course the New Zealand All Blacks and all those great teams for rugby. But it was such a different time, Russ, for sports then. I think it is really interesting how sports has seemed to change quite a bit. Um, but yeah, it is interesting to see these different teams. I hope everybody who watches the Super Bowl today has a great time. I hope you all enjoy it, and I do want to remind you all to pick up Rod Thunderhart's book
Mm.
See Through Love on Frisian Press. Tom Jr. Jackson has put the link in the chat, so please support Rod Thunderhart here. It is so wonderful. I can't
It's hard
wait.
getting published. It's hard getting published, Rod. So really well done. I hope they gave you a decent advance, and I hope you make some good money out of it. But even if you don't, I love David Gemmell, and I remember reading an interview with him, and I'll take myself out of this, but he did say in that interview, anybody that finishes writing a book deserves a medal because it's really hard. It's really hard, especially when you've done that much, but you've actually got that much left to do, and the enthusiasm carries you to that point, and then you've got that much to go. That's when you've got to bite down on the gum shield and really, or the mouthpiece, as they say in the States, you bite down on that, and you've just got to power through it. It's really hard. It's really, really hard. Amount of people that you've met, anyone on this chat, Rita, anybody, right? There's so many people that are writing a novel, have tried to write a novel, and so few finish it, and so few get it published. It's kind of like a 1% of a 1%, and then a 1%, a minuscule percent of people that actually make money, like a livable wage out of it. So really well done, man.
Absolutely, Rod Thunderheart, congratulations. We are so proud of you. Mr. Orlando's Groovy Movie says, I like rugby sevens. I've heard of like the Five Nations, but what is rugby sevens?
Um, well, it's the Six Nations now, but
Oh, really?
yeah, because they brought Italy into it.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, I think Argentina, or is it Argentina? I can't remember. Anyway, rugby sevens is rugby normally has a bigger team. I think it's sort of 14 or 15 people in it, and rugby sevens is with half of those people on the same pitch. It's a much faster game. But interestingly for me anyway, one of the boys that Sam used to do karate with, a little guy called Zuko, who suddenly just shot up, and like when he was 12, he was like 6 foot, and he's now been picked up by a rugby club, and he's represented England, and it's so cool to see him like wandering around Ham. And I was actually out in Richmond a couple of months ago with my mate Lee. We were on the piss, and Zuko's like a young guy, like he's like 17, 18 years old, or whatever he is, and he's walking down the street with a bunch of his mates, and I went, "All right, Zook," and he stopped in front of all of these teenage guys. "Oh, hello, Russ. How are you?" Shook my hand. I said, "This is my friend Lee." He was so polite. He was so polite, and he's always been that way. So none of this has gone to this guy's head, and you think at his age it really would, but no, no. So hopefully one day we'll see Zuko out there representing England and go, "I know that guy."
That is amazing. We do have
Mm.
to keep a lookout for that. And I did have one other question. Is there such a thing as Gaelic football?
Yeah, in Ireland, yeah.
Okay, I was remember I turned the channel and I watched a little bit of it, and it did look very, I mean, it reminded me of rugby, but it looked a little different, Russ, much faster moving. Um
It's
it
a bit
and
like it's a
maybe
bit like Aussie rules, isn't it? Gaelic football. It's quite brutal. It is quite brutal. But yeah, no, it is a thing. It is a thing, but it's not a thing in England. It's certainly a thing in Ireland. In the same that Aussie rules is only a thing in Australia, and I would say with America ball, which is what I'm going to call it from now on, which is brilliant. Nice one, Bonzo. America ball, yeah, it's played elsewhere, but it's only really, really gigantic in the United States. I'm sure millions of people watch it around the world, but we don't have American football stadiums here. We don't have them in France. We don't have them in South Africa. We only have them in the United States.
oh my goodness. Well, it is this big sports day. Bonzo says, oh, Jamin D says, Russ, do you prefer T20 WC or regular WC? Nowadays, I prefer T20. Not sure if it is controversial.
No, I don't think it is. I think a lot of cricket purists sort of like um, certainly in this country weren't that interested in T20, but then we won it. We won the World Cup, Kevin Peterson and all that. It was absolutely brilliant. I was in America when we won it. I went to this expats bar. um, in Houston there. And shame they didn't, wasn't on American TV. So the guy hooked up the internet and got it playing on every TV. It was brilliant. It was so great. So we got to watch that. No, I really like them both. I really do like the ODIs. I love, like, get ready first thing in the morning. Game kicks off at, well, get first balls at like 11 o'clock, and it will take you all the way through to 5 o'clock. Or if you get a day nighter, it's going to finish 10 or 11 o'clock. But T20 in and of itself is just so exciting. It's just, I saw us lose the T20 World Cup actually to the West Indies, and Ben Stokes was bowling, and I think they needed, like, a ridiculous total off the last over, and you just think, well, it's never going to happen. One ball six, next ball six, next ball six, literally snatched victory from the jaws of defeat that the West Indies. They won the World Cup. And I was amazed actually with Ben Stokes how he actually recovered. Like, he lost the World Cup for England. Like, you lost us the World Cup, but he did. He bounced back because the guy's immense. He's a proper hero. Reminds me of Alan Shearer in a way. He's like a proper English sporting hero.
Wow, that is quite a interesting story and certainly inspiring for, sometimes you don't have to win to be a winner. We were talking about we've talked about it in Rocky and a number of different times. And sometimes that's what's so amazing about sports, is that experience you get, even when it's not the outcome you wanted, was still, maybe even a pleasurable one, or one that was fulfilling in some way.
Oh
That's
God,
what
no!
makes.
It was devastating. It was like watching it. You're sitting there with your wine, thinking, "Oh, come on, get on with it. I want to start to celebrate." Fucking lost. Like, literally, I couldn't believe it. I was devastated. I absolutely was devastated. But I'm watching it on telly with a glass of wine. Imagine being that kid, because he was only young at the time. But that guy turned it round in all sorts of ways. He was involved in a fight, and he was cancelled. But then all the truth of it came out. Right, he basically was protecting one of his friends who was a homosexual, and the guys were picking on him, and Stokes got into this fight, and he was sacked from England. And he came back. We won the World Cup. Ben Stokes won us the 50 over, the regular World Cup, which is what James is talking about here, pretty much single-handedly. Guy's immense. He's an absolute legend of sport, and of English sport in particular. He's brilliant. Nice one, Ben.
Wow. And Bonzo says he doesn't watch cricket. But Darth Plato says baseball is his favorite. I also love baseball, Darth Plato, another great sport. Gary Vando Sandwich says ITV UK has the Neffel on tonight. My father called it the Neffel, the
Mhm.
NFL, which is, of course, the football, the American ball. Um,
America Ball.
that old Yorkshire geek says that he published his books, therefore he sold 10 of them.
It's hard, eh? Like, I've heard, the thing about that is, it's easier, I imagine. I haven't done this, old Yorkshire Geek, so I don't know, but I think it's probably easier to get your ducks in a row and publish, self-publish. That's one thing. But the relentless amount of work that you must have to do to actually get that book going. I know an author called Simon Turney, and he's only ever done self-publish, or maybe he's got a publishing deal now, but certainly for many years Si didn't. He was just self-publishing, and he was making an absolute fortune doing it, because he had a massive following. So it can be done. It can be done.
Bonzo asks Russ, speaking of sport, is Fury going to show up this next time? Oh
Fucking
boy.
don't get me started.
Oh my
That
god. I don't even know what it
fucking
means.
guy. That guy. As an Englishman,
Mhm.
I want Usyk to take that idiot to pieces. The damage that clown, that absolute clown, has done to heavyweight boxing, sport
Mm.
that I love, especially the heavyweights. Everyone loves to see the heavyweight. Him and his family are. Is he going to shut this time? Do you know what? Probably not. It's probably going to be something else. But that bloke will, WBO will never strip him. They'll never strip him. And that is, oh, God, I really despise him. And it was brilliant when it all came out. And he was accusing AJ of ducking, and people were going, "Oh well, you know, it's Eddie Hearn." He said, "Well, it wasn't because it all came out, wasn't it? It was Fury. Fury wants to keep his O, and he wants to keep his belt, and that is fine if that's how you're going to be about it. But stop calling all these other fighters bums and punks and not fit to lace up my boots and all that sort of thing. Because frankly, those fighters have all gone out and fought each other. And I think with Fury, Bonzo, his legacy is now really, 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 really in tatters. Given that he fought Dillian White, semi legit. Then he goes on and fights Derek Chisora in a glorified sparring match. Then apparently AJ's ducking, but oh no, now he's not. Then Usyk is ducking. Oh no, now he's not because you know Usyk accepted the 30%. So that was just genius. Like when he said, "Yeah, I'll fight you. I want the fight. 30%, 30% it is." And then Fury shit himself, didn't want that fight. Now, no, he won't fight Joshua. He wants to fight uh, Ngannou, and he gets put on his ass by Ngannou. Then Deontay Wilder, his biggest win, like the most feared man in boxing with a devastating right hand, gets absolutely schooled by Joseph Parker, who was in a bore fest against Anthony Joshua. I'm not going to lie, but comprehensively beat Joseph Parker. Then Otto Wallin, who was one of Fury's toughest opponents and opened up a cut on his face. This is the one that's just reopened, by the way. 17 stitches. AJ just annihilated the guy. So will he turn up? Probably not. I imagine it's going to be something else. He's going to need more time, or this and that. He should just retire. Sorry, I went off on one there.
No, it's okay. Dino Dynasties does A Quiet Place Day One, Russ.
Possibly for the Super Bowl, maybe.
Rod Thunderheart says he's getting back into wrestling.
That's why he looks so fit.
Splits, the back, all of that good stuff. It's okay. And a second book is coming. Eye of the Tiger, Europe Ball. If Europe, oh, okay. I guess you mean American football over Europe Ball. Honestly, I was impressed with that Gaelic football because I'd never seen anything like it. And I thought that the players were going to kill each other, Russ. That's what it looked like because the intensity of what I was watching, when I saw it, I was like, "What on earth is this?" Like,
It's insane, isn't it? It's really violent. It's almost like legalized violence. It's not like it's worse than boxing. It's worse than
yes,
because they haven't got gloves and they're kicking each other with boots on, fucking hitting each other with sticks and whatever else they do.
they're
Oh no, that's hurling. Sorry.
they're getting hurt. Well, hurling is also quite aggressive, but they're getting hurt, but they're still playing. Like they're really walking it off. You know what I mean? Like it's that they're getting bumps and bruises and stuff, but they just keep playing. And I'm like, how do they have the ability to do this? Darth Plato says NFL is a legal cartel. NFL is a very wealthy franchise. I am going to say that. They are very, very wealthy. If you get a job with the NFL, you are set for life. So, it's not a bad organization to work for as far as I'm concerned. Let's see. I heard that Amazon wouldn't have any ads on SB, so no Lord of the Rings of Power. Don't know about the others. Yeah, that's a good thing. A performing artist is quote of the day. Sometimes you don't have to win to be a winner. Yeah, well said, RM. Oh, thank you. Well, I'm not quite sure whether I can really take credit for it, but it's inspired from what we've been seeing. This great writing of performing artists. And yes, furious about Fury. Well, Russ, it looks like we're pretty much at the end here. We got some other comments. Jamin D says India will make its triumph return in a T20 WC. You wait and watch, Russ. I've prayed to Vishnu and he has reassured me this time. You know what confuses me about sometimes with cricket is that they always have these test matches. And I
Mhm.
don't understand. Like, the only thing that I don't understand about it is like, if it's a test match, then is it like a wild card match or is it like does it count? Like what does it mean?
No, so a test match is scheduled to go on for 5 days. It's a 5-day cricket match in which each side gets 2 innings, but it just goes on and on and on. So the idea of Test match cricket is it's like it's the purest form of cricket. Some would say because it goes on for so long and the levels of concentration and fitness you need to be able to go, every single day, and do that. And cricket's like any other sport. if you don't know what's going on, it's intensely boring. But if you do know what's going on, I've taken time off work to sit and watch cricket. You know what I mean? Like when it's the Ashes, England, Australia, and we're doing okay. Um, but England are playing India at the moment, aren't they? I seem to remember. Like, I think England won the first test, the first test match against India. So we'll see how that series goes. But yeah, they didn't, because the Australians won, didn't they? The T20, and because everybody supports Australia, don't they? Everyone loves it when they win something. But yeah, no, I think the reaction to India losing the World Cup was a bit shit, though, Jamin. I'm not gonna lie. You've just got to take it. When you even if you deserve to win, which I think they did on paper, were clearly the best team. Yeah, God, what happened to England? What happened to us? I was saying to my stepdad, I said, I'm so looking forward to this. We're absolutely, we're champions. We're absolutely going to win. This is the ODI World Cup. There's absolutely no way we're going to get. This is going to be brilliant, and we're fucking losing to Afghanistan. I mean, what happened? Where did it all go wrong, guys?
Well,
But
Russ,
yeah,
I got to tell you, when you mentioned about how if you don't know the rules, it can be boring. But I have to say that being at a cricket match where on one side, let's say it is the UK, and the other side is Windies, any kind of like West Indian group, it's a very different experience on the Caribbean side. I'm just going to say that in the stands, it's very different.
oh,
Like it's
I
like
bet. I bet it's a party.
it is a party, and I'm kind of looking at it, and it's like it's very different kind of when I'm looking at one to the other, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. But I have to say I do like it. And of course, here in the United States, we have a bunch of cricket, I guess you would call it, what is it called, pitches, a
Hmm.
cricket pitch. you know every few parks will have one, so it's not unheard of
I would
here.
not have expected that. That's amazing.
Yeah, yes, there's quite a few around here, and I don't know who plays on it. It could just be local people or kids or whatever, or
Well, you'll
leagues, but
probably find that you've got expat communities of Pakistanis and Indians and maybe some Brits as well are playing. But like especially New York's got a big Indian or Pakistani community. In fact, I was in a taxi in New York and I got talking to the driver. Um, who stereotypically happened to be a Pakistani. And anyway, we started talking. He's like, "Oh, we started talking about cricket." I said, "Oh, he asked me about it. He said, "Oh, you're English. Do you follow cricket?" Oh, yes, I do. And then he's like, "Oh, yeah, me and my brother, we've got this team. We play against the local community and blah blah blah." So I imagine that's what it's for.
mhm, exactly. And Rod Thunderheart says, "Getting the JCVD full splits back. Wow, like those Jean Claude Van Damme
Hmm.
Russ splits, then going back to wrestling and pull off my Thunder Bomb." Power bomb with splits and also promote my book. Gee, Rod, you are so badass. You kind of remind me a little bit of Viking Sam. Is it Vikings? What's the samurai guy?
Viking Samurai, yeah, David. Forget his surname. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you kind of remind me a little bit of Viking Samurai, Rod. And that is a compliment. It's meant in the highest form of compliment in regards to someone who pushes themselves and just really, optimizes their performance physically and writes. Rod, you are amazing, guys. Make sure you're picking up his book, guys. We are just about done with the show here. I want to thank everybody for being here. Um, Mary Lipis has Step Inside Middle Earth Epic Hobbit Home Tour. And it's just been so much fun to talk to all of you about how amazing, this day is, for sports, and, the excitement surrounded everybody's favorite sports coming up. Certainly, I do appreciate all of you. Want to thank Tom Jr. Jackson, my moderator, collaborator, and good friend for being here. We are all goof people, guys. Yes, and Slante, Bonzo Kilborn says Slante, to you as
we
well.
we missed one from Bushmaster. I'll take it. Will the Mandalorian movie be about Din and Grogu or Mandalorian, aka Bo-Katan, since they want to keep moving the goalposts on who the Mandalorian is about? Don't know, and nobody really does. And we don't even know if there's going to be a season 4 of Mandalorian. If there is going to be a season 4 of Mandalorian, that will probably answer that question for you. It really depends between, well, how many years we got between now and the Mando movie? Say 2-3 years. Really depends on if Grogu's still shifting the plushies like he used to. And if he is, then it will be Din and Grogu, and if he isn't, then it'll be Bo Katan, and that's absolutely fine. I think one of the sad things about Star Wars um, these days was brought up by Thor Skywalker. He did a poll on it, and I think it was 60% of people just, he asked it, what bit are you interested? Are you interested in this or interested in that? Would you like to see this? Would you like to see that? Or just don't you care anymore? And I think it was 60% of people said, I don't care anymore. And that is a real sad state of affairs for Star Wars. But maybe they can to get to go full circle when we were talking about um, Game of Thrones at the beginning. I just think unless they do a not a reboot but a retcon of Star Wars, I think it's lost beyond all. They've messed it up because even no matter what they do here, even if they recast um, Luke, Han, and Leia. Even if they did that and had all these adventures going on in the expanded universe, and we're sorry, we're going to go back to these stories, it doesn't matter, does it? Because Luke Skywalker still ends up as he ends up. Han Solo still becomes a deadbeat dad. Princess Leia still becomes Mary Poppins. That happened somehow. Palpatine did return. All of that stuff is in the future. Unless they undo that,
Yeah, and you make a good point, and I did want to mention that my comment to this is very interesting because they kind of did the same thing with He-Man in 2021, and
mm,
they had this reboot of He-Man. It was called Revelations, and it wasn't very good, and they redid it for 2024 called Revolution,
mm,
and they didn't. I guess they did undo stuff. They acknowledged that they made those changes from the previous series, but now they've gone right back to form with the He-Man that we know and love, the Tila that we know and love, Skeletor, Keldor, all these characters that are behaving true to form in a fashion that we recognize with voice actors like William Shatner and Mark Hamill, who make the show incredible. So it shows you, at least as far as I'm concerned, that you can turn things around sometimes. Guys, do check it out. If you're a He-Man fan and you didn't like Revelation, you're gonna love Revolution. I'm gonna make a video about it too, which I haven't had chance to, but do check out He-Man Revolution. It's back to the way things used to be, guys. And don't forget to check out Rod
Rod
Thunderhart's book,
Thunderhart's book. Yeah.
See Through Love, on Frisian Press. Certainly do check that out, guys. Thank you so much for everything, guys. And remember, no matter where you are in the galaxy, always remember to please be kind.
And
Take
well
care.
done, Irene Jobson. Keep it
Mhm.
up.
Bye.